We're doing our relaxation flow, so if everyone comes and lies down. So today is all about just trying to switch off from the world. We're still going to be working on our breathing throughout and our strengthening the core, but we're going to be just holding positions and focusing on relaxation. So start with lay on your back with your feet hip distance apart. And we're first of all just going to think about our connection and what we're feeling connected between our bodies and the floor. So we should be feeling connected between our feet and the floor, so both feet, the lumbosacral junction, TL junction, both shoulder blades and the back of the head. So just going to work a little bit on trying to get better connected now. So we'll start with the feet, and we want to feel the connection equally from side to side, from foot to foot. So if you're not, just think about shifting the weight from side to side until you feel like you've got a balance between the two. You also want to feel the weight equally from the inner part to the outer part of the foot. So if you're feeling it more on the outer part, try and just bring the inner arch down towards the floor, but don't let the outer arch come off the floor. If you're feeling it more on the inner arch, you want to just try and pull the outer arch down towards the floor, but not lift the inner arch. And then we're just going to work our way up to the lumbosacral junction. So we're going to pull the spine away from the floor into an anterior pelvic tilt, and then we're just going to lower the spine in towards the floor into a posterior pelvic tilt, and then into your anterior tilt, so peeling the spine away from the floor, posterior tilt, reverse peeling. So we're going to alternate between those two positions, rocking the pelvis backwards and forwards, lifting and lowering the lower back off the floor, until we reach the midpoint between the end ranges, where your lower back should be flat on the floor. There shouldn't be any gap between your back and the floor. And that's your neutral spine, neutral pelvis. And we're going to try and keep this position throughout the flow. And then we're just going to work our way up to the TL junction. So imagine that your ribs and your pelvis are like the pages of a book. So we don't want the pages to be open in this sort of open book appearance with a lumbar extension and rib flaring. So we're going to pull the pages together so that they're parallel with each other, so that the ribs and pelvis are stacked on top of each other, nice and parallel, so that when you breathe, your diaphragm and your pelvic floor can communicate properly. So now we're going to work our way up to the shoulder blades. So you want to feel it equal from side to side. So we're just going to shift the weight from side to side until you feel better connected on both sides, so nice and balanced. And the shoulders themselves, they want to be neutral, so you are going to try and get away from this internally rotated, protracted, elevated position. So this is obviously an exaggeration that I'm doing now. And then we're just going to slightly retract, externally rotate and depress the shoulders. So as if you're trying to pull the shoulder blades down towards the back pockets. And now we're going to work our way up to the back of the head. So you're going to push the head back down towards the floor, avoiding going into this neck extension or neck flexion, so it's going straight back down, and you'll feel the muscles at the front of the neck come alive. Keep looking up towards the ceiling. And now we should be feeling better connection underneath both our feet, lumbosacral junction, TL junction, both shoulder blades and the back of the head. So we're just going to work on our breath now. So put one hand on the chest, one hand on the tummy. And we're going to just work on getting the breath in the right order. So this is where the relaxation really starts. So try and think of it as a bit of a meditation. So we're just going to think about our breath, try and pull our thoughts away from anything else. And as we breathe in, we want to feel the hand on the tummy lift. And as we breathe out, we want to feel the hand on the tummy lower. Breathe in, hand on the tummy lifts. Breathe out, hand on the tummy lowers. Try not to let your thoughts drift, focusing purely on the breath. Each time you think that you feel like your thoughts are drifting elsewhere, just pull them back to your breath. Just do a couple more. Put our hands around the waist. Now that we've got the breath in the right order, and we want to create the 360-degree breath. So as you breathe in, you want to feel like all the muscles in the abdominal wall are expanding outwards as if they're trying to push your hands away. Struggling with this, to feel the muscles expand the whole way around, you're going to cough, feel that expansion, and use it to wake your brain up, to let your brain know where those muscles are. You should be feeling it equal from side to side and from front to back. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, through pursed lips like you're blowing through a straw. Concentrating on your breath, focusing on that muscle activation. Try not to let your mind wander. And now we're going to think about the brace. So when we're doing something that requires more stability, we need to be able to create a brace, and we need to be able to breathe while we're bracing. So it's an outward push, not a clench, not a tense, not sucking the belly button in. So we're breathing and expanding. And then do a little outward push, like you're imagining that you're farting. Keep the muscles active on the breath out. Try not to let the muscles pull away from the fingers. So the muscles are still trying to drive the fingers and thumbs outwards, away from the centre of the core. Okay. So we're going to just put our feet together and our knees. Put the hands, palms facing up towards the ceiling. And we're just going to start with some really nice, slow, gentle spinal twists. So dropping the knees in one direction, head goes to the other direction. And then we're just going to use the muscles, the oblique muscles in the abdominal wall, to pull the rib cage down towards the floor, bringing the knees back up towards the ceiling, and then go the opposite way. And pull backwards. So the head's going to the opposite direction to which the knees are going. So keep doing that from side to side, focusing on your breath at the same time. Pulling your thoughts back to your breathing if you're feeling them drifting off. Just do one more each side. And then we're just going to take the feet out a little bit more, so the hip distance apart again. And we're just going to stretch one leg out and imagine you're trying to roll the foot on a ball or on a bottle of water, and then you're going to pull it back in and then do the other side. And back in. So alternating the sides, keeping the pelvis neutral. Don't let your lower back come off the floor. One more each side. And then float one arm back, but up towards the ceiling first and then backwards. And then pull it back in. And then the other arm. And back down. Keeping the rib cage and pelvis connected as we're doing it. Try not to let the ribs go into this flare as you take your shoulders backwards. If you get to a point where you feel like the ribs are starting to flare, just hold it there. Breathe, expand, and then try and get the arm back a little bit further on the breath out. And then you're going to tie in opposite arm, opposite leg. And then And the other side. One more each side. Okay, so now we're going to just float one leg up into the air and lower it, and float the other leg and lower. So alternating sides. Going to keep in the pelvis neutral, try not to let it rock about, don't let it go into an anterior tilt. And then we're going to create our 360-degree breath, create our outward push, our brace, and lift the legs up into the air. And lower, and lift, and lower, lift, lower. Lifting and lowering. Legs up into the air, into the 3-month supine. Feet higher than the knees, knees over the hips, hips in external rotation, feet neutral. Just going to hold this position and just focus on your breath. Think about that expansion, that 360-degree expansion. Bring the knees into the chest. Just rock yourself side to side. Legs back up into 3-month supine. Fingertips pointed towards the ceiling. Lift the head slightly, look to the direction you're going to roll, so we're going to be rolling now, nice and controlled, and control on the way back as well, and rolling. So getting this control when you're rolling is really important. So for people that get back pain when they're turning over in bed, if you learn to control that shoulder, pelvic movement, you don't get that disconnection. It's quite often that causes the pain. So imagine you've got a Lego body, shoulders and pelvis moving at the same time. Imagine you're trying to reach for something with the top arm. Just do one more each side. And then you're going to come up into lower oblique sit, up into high oblique sit, and we're just gonna twist into it, hands flat on the floor, both hands flat on the floor. Keep the shoulders active so they're not pushing forwards, you're not letting your chin jut forwards, you're not rounding through your upper back. You're just going to hold this position, focusing on your breath. Take both forearms down to the floor and hold again, shoulders active. And then you're going to just make sure your hands are both pushed flat into the floor, and we're just going to push the floor away, so lifting up and then lower down and lift and lower. Trying to keep the spine nice and long as you're doing this. One more. Come up into this tall leak sit. And we're just going to do some hip rotations from side to side. So we're going to float the knees to the ceiling and take our bodies around the other way. And then come back and back round. And each time we come into the middle, we want to make sure we've got a nice straight spine. We're not flexed like this. So nice and tall. Really working on our hips at the moment, internal, external rotation. And then we're just going to end up on the opposite side. Going to come down or turn around into, well, in that higher leak sit, we're going to bring the other hand round as well. So we're both hands on the floor. And again, we're going to focus on the breath. Try and pull your thoughts to your breathing. Lower down to both forearms. Again, focusing on the breath, 360 degrees, nice long spine. Hands flat on the floor, you're going to push the floor away again and lower. Push the floor away, lower. do one more. Up into your high oblique sit. Just going to turn around this way. And then we're just going to walk the hands forwards from this oblique sit here. So we're just going to walk forwards and backwards. Walk forwards and backwards, making sure, careful with the knees. If you need to, obviously stick a block or a book underneath that buttock on the downside. And then bring one leg forwards. So you're in your tripod. And we're just going to hinge backwards. Again, only go as far as the back knee will allow. So you can come right back if you can do that. If you can't, all you need to do is just hinge backwards and forwards as far as that knee will allow. You want to take your front leg back forwards a bit more, so that even just a little bit of movement backwards can work that hamstring on the front leg. Again, we want to try and keep lengthening through the spine, so try and get out of this flexed position. This is what I really need to work on, so I'm constantly trying to pull my upper back down towards the floor. And then just in the back position, just as far as you can go, like if you can get back here, great. If you can't, just hold it in as far as you can go with your knee. And we're just going to hold that position, and we're just breathe in. Keeping the spine nice and long, shoulders active, focusing on your 360-degree breath. Coming back up, and just take one arm up to the ceiling. You can look up towards the ceiling as well. Breathe in, focusing on the breath, and then back round, arms up into your high kneel. Okay, so first of all, we just want to get our bodies into the right position. So we don't want to be narrow with the foot out to the side. Don't want the hip to be hiked. So we're going to pull the pelvis level with the floor. We want full connection with our foot, so we don't want to be on the outside of the foot or like caved in. So we want both sides, inner and outer connection with the floor. And we're just going to rotate around. So grab hold of the knee with one hand and reach back with the other. And then bring that arm across, grab hold of the knee on the outside, and then twist the other arm back. Come back into the middle. And we're going to go from high kneel into stand. So we're going to curl the back foot under, keep the pelvis level, make sure the knee tracks second and third toe, don't want the knee to collapse in, don't want the pelvis to shoot out to the side, so it's nice and controlled standing, and slowly lower down. So in your own time, we're just going to stand and then take one leg back, slowly lower down. Keeping the pelvis, I just want to really focus on what your body is doing as you're coming up. Ooh, the mats don't move. So it's really important that we try and ingrain these correct movement patterns to get the right muscle activation when we're doing these movements. Nice and controlled. Again, think about your breath as you're doing it. We'll do one more. Bring this leg backwards, so leading leg comes back, and we're just going to put the hands down and we're going to walk back down again. And then rotate around, so knees up to the ceiling, into the opposite side, and we'll just do the same again. So we're just going to walk the hands forwards and backwards. If you need the block under the bum again, it's absolutely fine. Control it backwards so we're not landing heavily on the knees. As we're doing this as well, keep the shoulders active. You're not just letting them round forwards as you're doing it. And then you're going to pull the other leg forwards into your tripod. And again, we're just going to hinge backwards and forwards, only as far as your back knee allows. Or as far as your hamstrings allow as well. If your hamstrings are quite tight, they're going to stop you from doing this. Keeping a nice long spine. Try not to let the spine flex. And then we're going to come into the back position just as far as you can go. Don't force that back knee. And we're just going to hold it and breathe. Come back up. And you're going to float the other arm up into the sky. Hand back down, up into your high kneel. Make sure the foot's not too narrow, get out to the side. Pelvis level with the floor, neutral lower back, and again we're going to grab hold of the knee and twist backwards, grab hold of the knee again. Twist the other arm backwards. Back into the middle. Pelvis level with the floor, and we're going to stand. So we're going to curl the back foot under, and we're going to stand. Try and keep the knee tracking, second and third toe. Reset each time if you need to. Really slowly and controlled on the way down. Couple more. And then take the hands down, lift the back knee off the floor, pull that front leg back, down, so you're into there, down into quadruped, then down into low quadruped. And we're just going to work on our position first of all. So we'll find neutral, so we're going to rock the pelvis anterior and posterior until we find the midpoint where the lower back is neutral. Elbows in line with the ears, forearms pointed towards each other, shoulders active. So push the floor away with the forearms, pull the shoulders into external rotation and depression. And then we're going to work on the upper back, trying to get out of this flexed position. Trying to pull the upper back into an extended position without dropping into the lower back. So, tilting the pelvis forwards and backwards, pulling the upper back down towards the floor. Breathe, focus on your breath. And then we're just gonna hinge the hips. So flexing at the hip, backwards, so the bum shifting backwards, but we're not letting the lumbar spine flex as we go. So this movement is purely coming from the hips and the knees as well. Can't fit the knees. But this movement isn't coming from the pelvis or lumbar spine. Focus on that breath. Nice, slow, controlled movements. And when you're extending the hips, so you come in this way, make sure that you don't lose the lumbar spine into extension. Again, the movement's just the hip. Turn the forearms parallel to each other now, and we're going to push the floor away with one hand, extend one elbow and rotate up towards the ceiling, and then bend the elbow, lower back down, and then do the opposite side. So alternating from side to side, just in your own time. One more each side. And then we're going to push both forearms away, with both hands into the floor, and extend both elbows and flex and lower down. Couple more. Up into quadruped. Hands flat on the floor. Tilt the pelvis, find a neutral spine. Upper back nice and flat again. Hands pushing down to the floor, shoulders active, and we're hinging. Hinging the hip. And extending, coming out of that position. So extension through the hip, not the back. Flexion through the hip, not the back. So really control this movement. Breathing at the same time, focusing on your breath, focusing on your body, focusing on what your body's doing. Focusing on feeling what your body's doing. And then come up into this quadruped, and we're just going to do some nice cat camels. So we're going to round the spine, tilt the head underneath. And then we're going to go the opposite direction. Try and drop through the upper back. Head up towards the ceiling. Other way. Do one more in each direction. Curl the back feet under. Make sure you've got your neutral spine, upper back flat. And we're going to lift the knees and lower. Lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower. Give your arms a little shake off. You're going to curl the back feet under again, get your neutral, lift the knees off the floor into the lower bear, and then we're hinging the hips backwards, lifting the knees higher from the floor into the high bear, and then hinging back. Low bear, high bear, low bear, high bear, low, lower back down, legs a little bit of a shake off. And then we're going to reset, find your neutral, upper back nice and flat, lift the knees, hinge backwards, and we're going to walk the hands backwards, let's come forward a bit. So we're hinging walking the hands back, hands flat on the floor, and we're just going to extend the knees and bend. Extend, flex. Feeling a little bit of a stretch down the back legs. And one more. Walk the hands back and forwards into bear, then quadruped. Give your legs a shake off. Reset, upper back nice and flat, shoulders active. Curl the feet under, lift the knees, hinge back, walk the hands back into the squat. Nice and upright through the upper back and the spine. And stand, lower, stand, lower, stand. Try and keep your neutral pelvis as you go down. And then we're just going to roll. So from the standing position, flex the neck, and we're going to roll down, feel that movement through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. Down towards the floor, walk the hands out, and then you want to go into your downward dog. And we're just going to hold that position. Breathe in 360 degrees, focusing on the breath. And walk the hands back. And we're just gonna roll up, so a reverse, feeling the spine. And we're just gonna roll down again. So just gonna do a couple of roll downs and roll ups, and then we're done. When we're in the top position, we want to roll the shoulders and take the neck backwards as well. Just do one more. And we're done.